Paul Millard, welcome to my podcast. Welcome to Hey Charley. Thanks for jumping on. I'm so excited to talk to you about writing and the publishing world and just anything else that we happen to stumble upon. Thanks for joining.
Hey, Charlie. Thank you for having me.
So I'm in Los
You should
Angeles
make
right
all your
now.
guests start with that.
I honestly, hold on, gonna make this my new note. Make them all say "Hey Charlie," and then at the end of my season, I can just boom like quick edit clip of all of them saying my podcast name,
Exactly.
and that'll be the new intro. It'll be very like Radio Lab. There'll be like weird noises and sounds and just different people saying "Hey Charlie." Okay, well that was great. This is good. I'll see you again same time next year. I got the perfect moment of inspiration for the podcast that I needed. I really appreciate it, Paul. I'm in LA. It's 6 o'clock at night. You're in Taiwan.
Taipei. Yeah, in
Taipei
Taiwan.
in Taiwan, and it is 10 a.m.
Yeah, it's 10 a.m. here.
The internet's amazing. I love it.
It's
This
great.
is this is great. Okay, so I want to start with the thing that I'm most interested in. I just want to cut to it, like immediately cut to the thing that I'm most interested in talking to you about.
Perfect.
You are doing something that when I went to Columbia for my MFA, they could not do. They didn't even have like a course for it. And maybe that's changed in the last 7 years. I don't know. But they had so much on story and so many different ways to improve your writing and nothing on getting published or deciding to self-publish. Meanwhile, right now for free, I can just go follow you on Substack and you are revealing everything like completely candidly, unfiltered, but also kind of like accessible. Like you don't really get bogged down in buzzwords or inside baseball terminology. Like I feel like you're very specific and clear about explaining different points of process. Like you might say some type of coded thing that they say in the publishing world, but then you have an entire paragraph like unpacking it and what this means and why I decided to say yes or no to this. So I guess it's not really a question. It's basically thank you for doing this because it's shocking to me how little of this is out there, and it's just been actually a pleasure to be like a reader of yours. Like it's been a pleasure to be like he's straight up just like telling everybody the good, the bad, and all the stuff that he's learning after successfully self-publishing and now actually having publishing houses that are trying to book time with you and have meetings with you and be like, this is why you could win with us. And you being like, yeah, maybe not. Let's talk about it. And sharing that, like, this is my last thing. That's my favorite thing about your Substack is it is so that you're a writer too, because I feel like I'm like reading a short story and I'm like reading
Yeah.
you in the room being like, well, maybe I guess I could do something with you. Like, what ideas do you have? And like you being kind of just like so like unbothered and unimpressed by like them not really like they're expecting you to just be like, we're a major publishing house. Why aren't you just signing the paper in front of us? So that's a long intro to just say thank you for what you're doing. And I wanted to kind of learn a little bit about when was the first moment or where did this start where you're like, maybe I'll just post about what I'm learning for other people that might want to follow this.
Yeah, so lots there I want to react to. First, I want to just thank you. I think one of the coolest things through my writing is just getting to meet people who discover my work. I met you, I think, originally through Kat, but we're all just very online people, and it's been such a pleasure to see the book really have a positive impact on people's life. And that's really a huge motivation for me. That's why I started writing and sharing what I find along the way. Even when I was early on my path before I did self-publishing, I always shared, here's how I'm making money, here's how I'm thinking about being an online person, here's how I'm doing freelance consulting. And so I have this combo of a sense-making instinct. This is the engineer in me, and then also a helping instinct. And part of that is laziness. Early on, people would ask me how to do stuff. In 2015, I created a resume course because I didn't want to help people with resumes anymore. I was really good at it. I knew how to do them exceptionally well, but I was done. I had helped maybe 200 people redo their resume, and I just didn't want to do it anymore. So that was one of my first online creations. And from there, I created this thing called the Career Transition Playbook. You can still get this for free. It's about how to make a career transition, 10 steps. It was a PDF. That was one of my early creations. And this is the instinct that has driven my entire creative career. Learn how to do things, share it with others, go on to the next thing, because I've sort of given that away and I don't need to spend time helping people with that anymore. And so writing has always been the vessel, which I sort of share what I'm learning, and it does seem to help people over time. My book, The Pathless Path, is me sharing how I went through the challenging parts, the exciting parts, the confusion of becoming an independent worker after being employed for 10 years. And it was really me giving permission to myself, but also saying, hey, if you want to follow this and feel less alone, this book might be helpful for you.
Okay, so can we double click into this thing that we didn't move fast by it. We moved like with a normal good pace. Like it was a great answer, but like I want to like double click into this like instinct to pass along the information. I just want to spend even just like another 90 seconds on it, because it's like now I feel like it's getting more popular to see these parties where you get in front of your friends and you like tell them what you do. And because people are like, oh, so that's your job. And I think that's like super nerdy and cute and wholesome, right? But I feel like you were there before that became like a thing that started to happen, like in the sense of like, well, people are asking me for help, and I am happy to tell you what I would do if it was my resume. And I'll actually create a course for it. And you know what? Yeah, actually, this is how I would career transit. Like, was this like something you feel like has just always been an instinct since you were like really young? Or was there a moment where like you really felt like you tried it and it felt good and you're like, I need to do more of this kind of thing in my life?
Yeah, I think I've always had this teaching instinct. It's definitely a personality type. There are just certain people that like being helpful. I think one thing I realized in working full time is that I could succeed, but me being helpful and generous with my time literally didn't matter. Like, I wasn't going to get a promotion after a certain level for being somebody that helps junior colleagues. That time would be way better spent schmoozing up to higher executives or
Damn.
making money for the company. And so part of becoming self-employed was being able to just spend more of my time for free helping people, because it's satisfying for me. I like it. It it makes my life feel full. So I've always had this instinct. One of my first jobs at McKinsey and Company when I was 23, I was a researcher for the operations practice. And they had these internal Wikipedia pages you could create where you could synthesize all these topics. And so the role of the researcher was to interact with all these global client teams that would reach out and say, well, what do we know on this topic? So at McKinsey, I had all these people reaching out. What do we know about this topic on supply chain or lean manufacturing? And every time my colleagues would just recreate and rewrite an email and memo and link to resources. So I started creating these Wikipedia resources that were just the standard best answer. It'd be like 5,000 words, links to documents, all these things. Essentially what AI does is very quickly now.
I was just about to say that's what it sounds like. It sounds like
Yeah.
you were doing what AI is doing now.
But it was immensely valuable because it helped me deeply understand the topics. And then quickly, I was able to shift to partnering with these teams and doing hands-on work. So I was no longer doing the reactive responding and researching of stuff. I was getting staffed on these teams. I was getting asked for thoughts. I was getting asked to co-create a lot of the new knowledge we were creating for clients. And so everyone started copying what I was doing because one, they didn't want to do the reactive work, but it sort of shocked me because for me, I think I have this laziness in me that's like, I'm doing the same thing over and over again. I don't want to do this anymore. Let me automate it and move on to something else. And I think one thing that helped me is I just wanted to leave or escape every job I had. So I just wanted to minimize the amount of work I wanted to do to work on other cool stuff or follow my interests. In my first job at GE, I did a lot of this and automated my work, but they were just like, we don't have more work for you. So I just surfed the web all day and like talked to my friends on Google Chat, which was more popular back then. And so, yeah, I've had this impulse. I did so many experiments before leaving my job, and it was all just leaning into this mode. It's it's how I can show up best in the world. And so sometimes it does lead to making a lot of money, like my book. Other times it's just me having fun helping people. I mean, the reason I have not done every podcast that's reach out, the reason I did your podcast is because you've been really thoughtful and I think you're showing up with the same spirit. And it's like, hell yeah. It's, and
My heart
that's
is full.
sort of how I,
Yes.
that's
Let's
sort of
have
how I
fun.
live my life principles.
Yeah.
There's no game I'm playing to like maximize reach. I really want to connect with people that are thinking long term, thoughtful, creative, generous, etc.
Well, okay, so two things. I have even been telling Kat, I've been telling my wife about the laziness thing, about like trying to embrace her inner part of her that's lazy, because I'm like such a big believer in this, but I haven't talked to a lot of people that are saying it
Strategic
kind of.
laziness. It's
Yeah, like
great.
I was listening to this podcast with this professor, and she was saying that she believes there's like a real gender bias, and that like a lot of young girls would benefit from having some of the same instincts for laziness that young boys in the classroom have, and she's like trying to find like clever ways to reinforce it as you're raising a child, because like like the boy like more like naturally wants to shortcut and figure out like minimum effort for an A. What is like the minimum amount of effort I can get for the A minus, right? And that a lot of times like the young girls are like looking for like maximum effort to reach like the maximum grade. And I find that to be like something that is really helpful for people to talk about, but that like for a lot of optics reasons maybe, or like the way that people think other people would perceive it, I don't know. They don't want to like just straight up say it, but like no, like laziness leads to like efficiency and all types of really great things.
Yeah, I think laziness to live more of the life you want
Mm,
can be great, but laziness to escape the reality you're actively participating in can also lead to cynicism. So that
mm.
was my story in college of just trying to escape grades and optimize around the best professor and do as little work as possible for the highest grades. But the problem with that for me is that I actually love learning. So I was sort of short circuiting my own interest and curiosity and got so caught up in just the outcomes of what I was doing that I wasn't present. And that carried over to the workplace, I think. And I was always just chasing the next job. The great thing about my laziness now is I can create stuff that helps people and or spend time writing or spend time with my family. And so the point of the optimization or automation is to basically just do more of the things I actually want to do rather than do nothing or sort of try to escape my reality. And so
Can
I
I ask?
think a
So
lot
they.
of
Oh,
people,
sorry. Go ahead.
well, all these hustle bros, right? They're so afraid of not always working all the time, or they want to control other people. All these lazy people are not doing enough. And what they're afraid of or what they're projecting or judging is that mode I was in college, right? I'm not contributing, I'm not adding. But there's no point in continually grinding on stuff if you don't care about it. And so my pushback to all this is always um you you probably should question the suffering you're doing, and there might be this mode of showing up in the world where you can actually enjoy things. And once you align with that, it doesn't really matter how much or how little you work because you're just going to continuously keep generating your own positive energy, which is very woo. But once you've experienced this, it really is just a completely different mode of living.
I really love it, and I'm like, in some ways, I feel like recovering from the idea that like my comfort zone would be to wake up in the morning and immediately try to problem solve something, and then if I'm not, and I don't have tasks, I'm not grinding like the viral videos we see of like, here's my workout routine at 4 a.m. and then at 5:30 I'm like doing this, and at 7:30 I'm doing this, and you like follow all this stuff, right? And it's like this. I do feel like I come from that same cloth of that's my comfort zone and that's how I feel good about myself, and that's how I have to like manage myself in some way. And I think one of the first times I cried as an adult in like a good, healthy way was realizing I was the one, and you used this term earlier that was like
Yeah.
giving myself permission. Like I'm the one that's like I'm allowed to enjoy life. And I remember just like saying that to myself in a mirror, like I was in a movie or something. You know, I was like,
Even when
I'm
you say
allowed
that,
to
I
enjoy
still
life.
feel like, yeah, it still feels kind of scary to say.
Yeah, yeah. Like I'm not supposed to say that. Like, but like this has to be for a purpose. And like this podcast, we need to clip and post and publish so that it does X, Y, Z. And so this just falls into what I want to really ask you. And I think it's just nice to also tell people this. So I told you that I'm really enjoying reading what you're doing, but I think what's more important for me to tell you is that there is a natural waterfall effect of it inspiring people in ways that you will end up never knowing. And some people will tell you and you'll get to appreciate that. But there are people that
Yeah,
you never talk to that you won't
it's
realize like
crazy. Yeah.
I'm doing a project now that I'm like deeply passionate about that's like a men's group, and we meet up every other week, and we're scheduling like this idea of we're going to have community and we're going to talk about things in our lives. And that's amazing. It in itself is like one of the most motivating things I'm doing in my life right now. Here's the part where you tag in. It's only recently in the last couple of weeks I'm reading your Substack, I'm seeing how open you are about being this whole publishing thing, that like two things are happening in my mind naturally with no I should, like no shoulds, but just like this natural like kind of gravity towards it. I'm like, I could start telling other people about what I'm doing with this men's group and opening it up and
Yeah.
sharing about how it's responding, just like Paul's doing here. And then the second part is like, I think I could start publishing and working on my writing again. And what if I self publish? And I bet like it's going to be a crazy thing, and I don't know how you would track it, but can you imagine just like knowing like 20 years from now how many other writers got past some mental block or got past something and ended up like publishing their voice out there and doing something because they came across you being willing to share your story?
Yeah, it's hard to think about. I actually don't think about it very often. I think I just try to really stay connected to what I'm actually doing, and that I think is the way to have that sort of effect. I actually think getting caught up in the story or the outcome, you often have people, I want to reach 1 million people with my book. I want to reach 10 million people. I think these are sort of like delusions of grandeur. Like people are seeking like immortality or fame, or like they're trying to escape their current realities. They're basically signaling there's some sort of suffering. However, I would say I do notice the reaction and impact my work has, and that is probably why it's so easy to keep going, even though
Mm.
I have financial insecurity. Because 10 years in the consulting world, I received the "oh, this was great, thank you" emails. I received the balanced feedback at the end of every year. Here are the 5 things you did exceptionally. Here are the 5 things you're not good at still. It's like, yeah, that stuff's kind of empty, and 99% of these people never talked to me again after I left the jobs. But the emails I immediately started receiving when I started writing before I left my job and right after, I'd write something random about just work, and people would be like, this is eye-opening, this completely shifted my perspective, I want to thank you so much, I hope you keep going, I hope I can support your work. And yeah, one of those letters is better than 10 years, or basically my entire adult life until I was 30, of like all the empty, like, oh, good grade, good job. Like, it's just all empty stuff. And here are these people having these real reactions. And so for me, the formula became, if I can just figure out how to keep writing, I love writing, people seem to resonate with this, that's enough. It's enough just to do it for myself, but it's enough that other people are impacted. I just need to keep doing this. And it's almost like this higher pull than any sort of like worldly concern. It actually seems unreasonable for me to make any sort of rational, oh, I need to make more money, or I can't afford a house, so I need to go get a job. Like, I actually think that's too selfish. Like, I actually just want to keep writing because it seems correct. Like, it's this sort of Buddhist idea of like a right relationship to work or something.
I I'm going to tell you something I think that you'll enjoy, and it's something I tell a lot of other writers when they ask about, like, there was a popular book, I think, I don't remember when it came out, but it was like MFA or New York. It was like, is it better for me just to move to New York to be a writer versus because MFAs are so expensive and hard to get into? And so people a lot of times will ask me, like, do you think your MFA was worth it? And like, what was it like and everything? And of all the things I could tell them, I always end up coming back to the same thing, like naturally. The thing that always resonates was that I remember, unfortunately, so many of my professors just being really self-tortured. We talk about like suffering that they would kind of impose on themselves. So we're talking
It's a
about
shadow career.
we're talking about professors that are New York Times bestsellers,
Yeah.
that are in demand, and they're at like that's even more to the point, right? Is like they are writing their next book, they have a deal, they've
They don't
been of
enjoy it?
some prominence, and they're at an Ivy League institution, right? And the majority of them, right? There were some exceptions who I loved, but the majority of them thought that their first book didn't get the reception they thought it deserved, that their second book, felt like it wasn't quite the story that they wish it could go back and redo it and add this and change that. But it wasn't just the book, because any of us can have like things we would want to change or whatever. I'm talking about it was like a weight. You could feel a weight on them, right? In a way that they were
That
like kind of
sucks.
tortured or didn't feel like they had been validated. And then
I
you
can-
realize, like,
I
where's the
can fix
validation
them.
going to come from? Right. If that doesn't, we got to get the book to them. All right. Well, I still have their emails. So, but
can
yeah,
fix
can
them.
you imagine how eye-opening that is for me, though? Right. Like, two things is it happened from the author standpoint, but my dad was incredibly successful in business, but he wasn't the happiest person I knew. And I remember early on watching that and being like, okay, so it definitely doesn't come from like pure success business accolades. Maybe it comes from the artistic validation. But then I realized really quickly by watching these people that were incredible at what they do and had like demand for their time and everything, and seeing that they also were not allowing themselves to enjoy anything. They just were saying that they hadn't received enough validation for the book. And so I if anything is the healthiest thing said on this podcast with you right now, I think it's like 5 minutes ago of you like specifically like cautioning yourself, or not really cautioning, but kind of saying out loud, like it's not about how many people buy your book. That doesn't really, that doesn't, just gets back into a loop. It doesn't actually lead. There's not a number,
Yeah, I think there are a couple things. I think one, this is my second career, really. So my first career was playing in that mode, aiming at the credentials, at the outcomes, at the success. And I quickly realized, okay, this doesn't make me happy. I keep jumping job to job, making more money, and I am increasingly dissatisfied. And so this has led to my entire inquiry into work. And I think one of the biggest traps of work is we become attached to the story of work rather than literally what we're doing. I enjoy typing at a keyboard and making sense of ideas in my head. When I walk around the streets wandering Taipei, I am thinking about, how do I craft a sentence? How do I craft a paragraph? And I guarantee you those professors at one point did love that or still love that. But also they are creating this, they're attached to this story of like, oh, this person I know is doing this, I'm not good enough, I need to be doing this, or this person's on Good Morning America and I'm not. And those stories will just ruin everything. It's really fascinating to see somebody. I've seen so many authors recently. I get invited to these group chats. I talk to these other authors and I'll meet people that are like, yeah, I just feel like my first book was a disappointment and they sold like 25,000 books. That's crazy.
Yeah, yes.
And those are 25,000 people you're completely dismissing and overlooking. For me, my book was a success as soon as I sold one copy and I got like one nice note.
Fuck yeah.
Because every reader is a human. These are literally, I get to write words on a page and think about thoughts in my head, and people pay me $7 to buy the paperback. Like, what a life. Incredible. People used to die to share their ideas and words. And so the fact that I get to spend as much time as I have over the past few years, and people are paying me for it now after not paying me for it for 7 years, it's just so wild.
I'm so
It's
hyped up
su-
right now.
it's
I'm like,
it's such a
I
it's
feel
such a
so
privilege.
like motivated and energized at 6 o'clock at night, and I'm so excited for other people to listen to this too because it's your Substack, but now I'm seeing your nonverbals and I'm hearing your tone and outside of it, and I can see how like natural and genuine like that is coming across, and it's such a reminder that like whatever fuel we had to use in our life to create art, a lot of the time it might not have actually been a good, healthy, sustainable fuel. You can like work to source it out from this other more healthy, positive energy, and your writing and your art or whatever, it's still going to be as beautiful than ever. And that like the things that we get attached to or think that we need for motivation or validation or whatever it is, that's not what makes you somebody that has something to like share. I just feel so encouraged by like what you're saying. Can I do well, I want to give you a chance. If there's anything else you want to say about this, but I did
Yeah.
want to talk about your actual book and especially what you've done recently with this like hardcover feature.
This is a good segue. So, one advantage I had was I did not grow up in a literary family, which many of your professors probably grew up in literary families or in New York or in the creative industries or had parents that wrote. And so I had none of this expectation or stories or narratives growing up. Writing a book felt sort of silly to me. It felt where I imagine you did not have that feeling going to an MFA program. Probably
Well,
everyone who
I'm
goes to
glad
an
we're saying
MFA
this just
is
because
like,
like
yeah,
weirdly same, but I don't want to detract from what you're saying. I'll just give
that's
you like a
great
quick
then.
30
Yeah.
second is my parents worked in insurance, right? I did not grow up in a literary household. And I remember entering into the world there and
Yeah.
realizing that yes, people come from those type of families, and people are very much like, I'm gonna graduate, I'm gonna get an agent, I'll have my first book published by this, and they had like a whole outline of their career. I was burnt out from a startup I had. And I was like, I need to do
I
something for myself. I
love
need to
it.
do something creative. I was like, what if
Dude,
I
you need to
do
do more writing
it?
about your
Yes.
time there. It'd be
Yes.
so good.
So I did that as a response to burnout, but I remember, and this will be the title of my first book when I write it because I got encouraged by you. Is one of the students in my class who kind of had a very condescending air about her, but she was like, she like wore herself on her sleeve. She remember reading one of my pieces and just like turned to me and says like, "Has anyone ever told you you're really middle brow?" And I remember just like feeling like in that moment, I was so happy because something that I
That's
felt
great,
like was
actually.
truly, I know, something that I think was truly meant to be like a barb because of her and the way she said it and everything, made me feel so like naturally like myself. Like I felt like my voice was on the page, and I felt like it felt like what I would want to be perceived by. And like I basically like, it's one of those moments where you're like, I think I'm supposed to be offended, but I'm not feeling any offense in my body. This is fucking great. And I was like, Middlebrow should be like the name of my book because I feel that way being on this campus
Ah, that's such a good
anyway.
name. That is such a good name. That's
But I do
perfect.
like that we have that. I like
Yeah,
that we have
that
that background though, both of like, there's no
that
expectations. Nobody in my social unit or my parents were like waiting to see what my thesis was going to be about. I'm not sure either of my parents even read anything I wrote when I was at that program.
yeah, and so I think this is part of the problem is yeah, my parents, I was a first gen college student. My parents didn't go to college. We didn't really talk about books growing up. It was all like do good in school and get a good job and make a lot of money. So quitting my job to wander and write a book was not like this script that people were like, hell yeah, finally you're getting your book done. But I think the advantage of that is I was able to go into this world of writing and creating a book with no baggage and with my engineering perspective, looking at it with open eyes. And I constantly was like, I must be missing something. It can't just be uploading a PDF and then it prints everywhere around the world in Amazon. I'm actually thinking of creating a book next year called Literally a PDF, how
I
you
love it.
can write a
Please.
book and share it with the world. So I didn't
But I
have
do think because most people don't know that still. But I'm saying I think most
I
people still
know.
don't know that, and that's why that would be valuable.
And so all these authors, these professors, the people in the NFA program, they're living out a story and a script that was this great path. There was really a glory day of publishing where you can make tons of money, get that first deal, and basically be a made man or made woman early in your life. That path doesn't exist anymore. These publishing companies, their margins are tighter. It's harder with the global supply chains. They don't pay people well compared to other industries anymore, so they don't get the best talent or the best people. They are just pumping out tons of books. They're running the same playbook on everyone. And what that does is create cynicism. And as a creative person, your enemy is cynicism. And so this is the thing that they didn't understand when I was on the call. And what you said about my transcript of the conversation, literally that's how it happened. So it's cool to hear I conveyed it correctly. And it's easy to write about ridiculous life experiences when it's just retelling exactly what happened. But yeah, they don't have on their business case a line item for giving a shitness or me caring about the book or factoring in, oh, what if the author becomes cynical? It's not a factor, but that is the most important thing in creative work. If the creative work aligns with the energy and essence of who the creator is, you get these very powerful and magical effects. And this is why humans do art. We can still look at something like the La Sagrada Familia and be like, wow, that is a human. That, like, oh my God, incredible. Like something happened there that is a human experience that is beyond us, that we can also obtain ourselves in this lifetime. That's wild. And we have an industry that doesn't take that seriously. Maybe they never did. Maybe a creative industrial industry can't take these things seriously. And so it sucked for a long time because you needed permission. You needed to adopt their stories. But the internet was created. We created the internet and we're pretending like it wasn't created. It's so crazy to me. It exists. We're talking on the internet right now. Yeah, even from to this Taiwan point, right? To the U.S.
I tell this people about podcasts. I'm like, my like not so hot take. Actually, it's pretty hot take. Is I think there should be more podcasts, but not in the way people think. Not to try to secure advertisements, not to try to maybe income, but you are scheduling time with like. And I'll use this as an example because I haven't done this yet on a podcast. So I'm going to do it because we have video on, and like so if somebody's listening to this on Spotify, they can like have the video pulled up right now. Like hit pause and pull video up. Because they can get the visual gag of this. If I do this, if I pull my phone up and I pull back as we're talking and I look at my phone on this podcast, that is one of the most like we are creating energy distance away from each other and putting something between a natural conversation. Almost as bad, if not more bad, than if we were at a dinner table, which is sad because it should be the worst at a dinner table. But there's something like about podcasts where people naturally put their phones away. A lot of people, when they're doing this video thing, they turn everything else off and they just sit. And it's like one of the rare moments that we have that's with technology and screens where we're not distracted, where we're actually like actively looking at somebody's nonverbals and listening to their tone of their voice. And so if we've like accidentally stumbled upon something that otherwise has like incredibly kept us like distracted and doesn't do that. Like I want to have a podcast with my mom once a month, and it's the Charlie's Mom podcast, and her and I are scheduling time with each other. And then I don't publish it for everybody. It's just for her and I and our family. And then I clip my favorite moment that I love, and my sister and my two brothers and everybody else gets to see this fun story we have. And then for the rest of my life, I have this video memory like heirloom that like I created because just like you said, these tools became possible. Like the internet made certain crazy things possible, and we haven't really caught up with the idea that actually we can do so much that we haven't been able to do. I just think it's like such a crazy good point by you.
Yeah, I wrote about this article in the Pathless Path from the New York Times. I think it was 2020 or 2021, and the title was "Have We Hit Peak Podcast?" And so the funny thing is the amount of podcasts has gone down in the past few years because there were so many starting in during the pandemic, which is fine. Like many people are going to quit, try stuff, but it's so cynical. It's such this top-down, prestigious, highbrow, like looking down on how dare these middlebrow people starting a podcast? How dare they think they can create or have any taste? And yeah, it's still this legacy sort of New York mindset of you need to come from the right family, you need to have the right way of communicating ideas. And yeah, it's not the only way. You can create good art through all of that, but there's just a flourishing of like millions of people around the world who can do things in more interesting ways. And it's great. We have a lot of slop, we have a lot of crap, we have a lot of hustle porn on the internet, but we also just have all these small pockets of just delightful connection happening all over the place.
And that's even more of like the call to myself that I have that feels really natural, and just feels really warm is like, oh, I'll just create more of the content that I wish I was seeing on my phone. I can just do that.
That's my call to people is like, people are like, oh, I don't want to post online because everything is just so loud. We don't need more stuff. It's like, no, you have like a healthy feeling there. You're naturally restraining yourself from pumping out the most aggressive stuff. So you're actually the exact person that should be creating.
Exactly.
We need 100 more people like that. And less of like the Alex Hormozy types who are just gonna like hammer every growth angle and attention socket on the internet to serve their needs.
Speaking of, can I hype
You're friends with Alex Hormozy?
No, I actually don't know who that is. So now I have to Google it after this out of natural curiosity.
So great.
Can I hype up your book for a moment in a way that I think when I give you the context, it'll feel like really earned and not like hey, here's your clip to put on your Facebook or Twitter or whatever. So one of the things I've loved about being an entrepreneur is branding. I've really loved that part of my job. For like over a decade, I've worked with a studio called Focus Lab out of Savannah, and the founder is amazing. He could have gone to like Nike, he could have gone to New York or San Francisco or anywhere and been made a ton. Like he really easily could have. And he's like, I just want to stay in like Savannah and pick the projects I want to work on and pick the brands I want to work with. And I'm glad I met him at an early age because I feel like that was one of those good influences. I was like, I like this guy. I want to like feel like I follow a career like that. So stupid talented. And I've always been really proud of any of the products or the things I've worked on. I've really like just been so in love with the branding, artwork style of something. So I really want you to hear that when I say that like, you absolutely crushed it with the team that you worked on for this like special release of the book. It's the kind of thing where like I always get scared when I'm waiting for artists to turn around stuff and show me the final thing, or that here we have 3 different options for you, and you're like, I get this like feeling in my stomach a little bit like, it's okay. I'm always going to imagine or think of something that is perfect, and there is no such thing as perfect, and it'll be great or whatever. And then every once in a while, something actually gets delivered where it goes. You say the thing of like, oh, it was beyond what I hoped for, but like, no, right. Like actually, you had these high hopes, and then what the delivery was actually beyond what you hoped for. And I would be shocked if that wasn't how you felt with the way this like, it looks like kind of like a cloth blend material. Even like some of the stuff that you've shown on the inside of the book and illustrations. Like to me, it is such a fucking great execution of an idea that if we don't talk about it for like at least 2 to 3 minutes, I'm going to be upset because it was on my list of like, I only have a few things I know I want to talk about, and I want to talk about like how good it must feel to be. It's like beautiful. Like Paul, it is like actually beautiful, and there's going to be people that will see it that won't even know what the fuck you're on about or what you're talking about, and will actually just want to buy it because they'll like want it in their bookshelf.
I love that. This is definitely getting clipped into an ad for the book. But But yeah, the
Full disclosure, I did buy the book. I don't know when it shows up. I think you said that the books are like on a freight ship somewhere
no,
in
we
an
have some
ocean
extra
or
copies. I'm gonna tell her to send you one
no, I
because you're
did buy
now.
one. It's
No,
already on
I
the way.
don't.
Like I bought it like
We're gonna expedite it.
okay,
Um,
now we're talking.
now that you're the biggest fan of it,
It's so pretty.
so what you're describing is definitely this. This is the tension of creating art, and is why I've been so hyper independent. Because, especially with my words, I don't want other people to take my words and take it. As soon as it gets away from you a little, or is not exactly what you're feeling, it really is a gut feeling. And so I really lucked out with the Pathless Path, and I was able to pull that off on my own. And then the cover, it happened with the cover on the Pathless Path. The guy came up with 5 versions, and that cover on the paperback, it was just like, oh my gosh, this is perfect. It's exactly what I want. This is it. It just felt right. And when you see something that feels right, there's no tension. It's just like this sort of, yes, exactly. And it's so amazing. And so I have struggled with that. My second book, Good Work, I still need to redo that cover. I haven't found the right one. I tried to go back to the same guy and it just didn't work. So I know exactly that feeling you're talking about. And I think you know Nate Cadlack. Do you know Nate Cadlack?
I feel like I recognize that name from Twitter maybe, but I couldn't tell
But
you who
yeah,
it is now.
he's the designer. And so I actually hired him to coach me on design and how to think about it
Oh,
and like how to get better about
you hired the
I,
designer to coach you on how to
yeah.
think about design?
Yeah. And so I was redoing my websites and I wanted to understand the basic principles and stuff. And so because I know I get frustrated when they don't feel right. And so I spent a lot of time on that in the previous 2 years, understanding color and fonts and all these things. And so when I was hiring the team, I went and I found this person who is very similar to me, but all credit really has to go to her. She has the right people and was able to take my stuff. I don't know if you saw the post or it went through all the
Yeah.
steps to
Yeah, it's
get
one of
where
my
we
favorite
wanted.
posts that I read in the last month. Yeah. Was that
But
part of the publishing house or was that a different like design or not publishing house, but like there was
no,
an otter something
it's
or
all Otter Pine. This woman, Saya
Otterpine.
Wood,
Yep.
she really has like an all-star team. She's very selective about who she works with. She's really taking a very pathless approach to building her own firm. And yeah, some of the initial versions were like, yeah, it's not quite right. And then we literally had like a 15-minute combo. And she's like, yeah, I think we should go to this like Japanese style. You really like this. I showed her some AI sketches that were like not very good. She's like, let me just come back. And she came back with the cover. And I was like, good God, this is it. It just made perfect sense. We made some tweaks. We moved stuff around. We changed the cover a little, but that sort of set the tone for this blue. I knew I wanted the white cloth. I had the Walden cover from Steel Brothers as an inspiration, but everything was downstream from then. And it was very uncomfortable for me too, because working with people like this is very expensive. But throughout the process, I decided that this would be an art project. It was not a business first project. It is a business second project. And so everything she recommended or we brainstormed that could add to the delightfulness of the book, I just said yes to the point where like a couple weeks before launching, I'm like, holy shit, what have I done? I am now burning cash out of my savings for a few months to do this. But I pulled it off, and I think the reaction to it has been really energizing. And so even if it doesn't like break even, I think as an art project, this is something I'm just going to look back with and just be like, that was the right choice. And like, this is why we do art, to delight
I can
people.
I can just tell you from seeing it two things. That one, the art style is incredibly inviting, which is like the ideal thing for your voice and like what you're writing about and like the heart of the book anyway, is that the art is inviting and warming somebody to want to grab it and look at it and open it, and that's like a dream thing. And two, if I was the writer and that was my book, I would be so pumped that that would be an artifact for the rest of my life that captured a part of my identity, a part of something I wanted to say, but then
Yeah.
visually now there's something that ties in with everything that I had said with my words in a way that I would just be so happy to be like, this is like something I will cherish for the rest of my life. And I wanted to like actually hype you up and say, as somebody that like I really am proud of the projects I've worked on my sense of taste and branding and storytelling, everything, that I think you absolutely just like crushed it with that. And other people should check it out. And I can't wait for it to like come in for Kat and I. And I wanted to share one last thing because coming up on like the arbitrary times I've set up on these podcasts for myself as it's getting later and time to eat dinner with my wife. I just thought that this is like the most pathless path type story to tell you that was recent for my own life. Is so I'm fundraising for my startup right now, which I've never done. I've only ever bootstrapped. And it's like a whole other world. You're pitching all the time. You're trying. People want to know what your valuation is. How do they win? How do you win? And I had somebody in my network that's super smart with AI. Like he works for the Air Force on machine learning stuff, and he's also just such a good person. Like probably one of the most he used to be a professor of math at a college in Georgia, and he's just like one of the nicest dudes ever. And I was like, you know what? I wonder if he'd want to build some of this stuff with me. Like AI is part of what we're doing, and or even if he would just want to consult, I'd really love it. And I got on the phone with him, and I do my whole spiel. This is what I think you could add, and this is what I'm trying to do, and this is what's going to make us different as a startup, and all that. And he, in the most calm way ever, not reactionary, not defensive, not condescending, just like natural vibe, was like, I don't really feel like I need any more money, and I think I really like the amount of time I have in my life. So I'm not really like looking for anything. Feel free to send that stuff to me, and I'll take a look at it for you. But I'm pretty happy right now. And I just
I
remember like
love
having
that.
this. I just remember being like, oh my God, that is the healthiest friend I have. And that is the best feeling I've had from a friend telling me something,
That's so
right? And
cool.
I have thought about it every single day for like the last 2 to 3 weeks. I've thought about that feeling, and the way that I've really resonated with it, or the way I've decided to like hold it in like my heart, to sound like cheesy, but I like being cheesy. The way I like hold that in my heart is like, I want to know that no matter how much I'm hustling or grinding or trying to like make my company be successful and do all the things I want to do, write a book, record a podcast, or whatever, I want to know that I can still access that feeling on any given day and come to that same feeling, which right now in my life I can. So like, thank God, right? But there's something so pure that for so much of my life evaded me, and
Yeah.
being able to say that with like a straight face to somebody and mean it in such a natural way of like, actually, I don't really feel like I need anything else. I think I have everything I
Yeah.
need. And you
And I
feel
think,
it in the other person.
and I think one, people want to think, oh, if I am aligned like that and really doing work I care about, the money and stuff will still work out. I actually think that's wishful thinking and a delusion. But I think the more interesting thing is you might not care about what you think you need or care about now.
Yes.
And so uh, my path has just been everyone sees some of the success I've had, but most of why I'm so happy in my path and still energized to keep going is because I've said no to many things that surely would have made me more money. I had somebody say to me around the book deal offer, you could really become the face of the Great Resignation. And he's like, you really should think about partnering with a publisher. You really could get this book to probably like 1 million people globally. You could do speaking tours. And he's probably right. If I'd gone with the publisher, I probably would have opened up a new pathway for speaking tours because they basically just hand you off to their connections in the speaking circuit. It's very hard for me to get high-end speaking gigs now unless I have that like publisher relationship. This is one thing they dangle in front of people to do it. And so would I have made more money? Maybe. Would I have had more connections with other high status authors? Yes. But I'm good. Like I'm already living the life I want. So like why does it matter if I reach more people? And it's going to be more fun if I just do it like slower and over the long term.
Yeah, what if we're not great predictors at the things that we think will be? I remember when I was going through a horrible co-founder breakup, like terrible, and we were trying to figure out the terms of how we are going to sell the company and how we were going to get it all moved on. And I remember like thinking with my wife of like once this is done, once this is done, once this is done, then and then and then and then. And I was in therapy at the time, and I remember talking to this my therapist, and she was like, she's had this really beautiful way of just being like, I worry that if you're struggling now to find a sense of gratitude, beauty, love, like this connectiveness with everything, like everything's okay. Um, I wouldn't be so sure that once this event is over, then. And what's nice about that is it can then fold into all the other events because we are, I think, attached to like whatever the event is. It might not be some big co-founder breakup. It might be something much smaller. Oh, 2 weeks from now,
Yeah.
then this. Or once I get the promotion and then this. Or once I get the and then it was like the biggest reminder was like, yeah, wait a minute. It's just like a choice. I can just let go now. And what if everything's actually okay?
Yeah, I had to end a working relationship with somebody that um let's just say wasn't playing long-term games, relationship first. And so yeah, I think I would have toiled over it for a long time when younger. But it was just such a clear principles difference for me that it definitely was hard, but it was much easier to move through it because it's like, yeah, it's practicing these things and saying walking away from the book deal was very easy actually because I had said no to 100 other things to like optimize or do things that would maximize my opportunity and things like that. And so it's really just flexing these muscles of like moving toward the life and way of showing up in the world that you want. And there's no magic formula to it other than just sort of getting to know yourself, going deeper and continuing on that journey over the long term.
I want to end on that and on what you said just there because I love it so much. But and I want to cap it off for myself too as like the last thing that we say. But it is really healthy and refreshing and a beautiful gift to give other people to say an actual in story too, like because you're a writer, to put it in story of this person clearly explained a proven strategy for me to be the potential face of a movement, to be on stages, to have higher levels of acclaim, higher volume of sales, potentially even more money, all of this stuff that most people I think imagine is the best feeling of being an author. And I think that they might have been right. That's the most powerful part of anything that you said is,
Yeah.
and I think that they might have been right. And yet, so what? And if they
Yeah.
are, like, that's I think the beautiful, like, contagious thing I think is really worth hearing of, like, within being so within yourself and like you said saying no to so many things to be like, yeah, what if they're right, and what if I was actually less happy in that world because I know what it is, that why it is that I'm doing what I'm doing, and I know what enough is.
I think the harder thing is actually internalizing that I might have been just as happy on that path too. And this is sort of
mm,
the challenge in modern life is there are just a million paths. And so
Optionality.
really
Yeah.
really just mourning all the potential stories of what could be. We get so caught up in the story of work rather than just the day-to-day of work. The fact is I literally just like clacking away at a keyboard. That's that's all. That's all I want to do. It's not that special. It's a boring little thing. If I do a little bit of the clacking every day, it's nice, and that's enough.
Well, I've really enjoyed this. I will lightly push back on your very lovingly self-deprecative humor of the boring thing that you do, just to say that your book is fucking awesome. What you're writing on your Substack right now to reveal for people that might also want to write or are also like wary of the publishing world is awesome. And I'm glad that we actually like made time for each other to just talk and to go deeper into some of this stuff, because I do think it's so inspiring for other people, because I know it's been inspiring for me. Like I know it's helping me get through some blocks and want to write more and want to share more.
Hell
I
yeah.
know it's true for other people. So I really appreciate you jumping on and just being willing to talk about this even deeper and further than what you've been writing about it.
Yeah, your writing is great. That essay you wrote last year, I still, yeah, it's awesome. Um,
Thank you.
yeah, your writing is great. I hope you do more writing. I would definitely read your writing in a second.
I got you. I got you. It's coming up. All right. Thank you so
Nice.
much, Paul, for doing this. I really appreciate you.